Hi, everyone. It's Arash Madani from Sportsnet. You are listening to the Walk Off Podcast with Scott and Adam.
So pleased to be joined by today's guest, Toronto Blue Jays insider and Sportsnet analyst, Arash Madani. Welcome to the Walk Off, man. Thanks so much for taking the time.
Hey, thanks for having me on, boys.
Oh, we're excited to talk some Blue Jays with you, my man. I do want to start with just saying, big fan of your work. I've really enjoyed everything you've done over the years. And honestly, man, the long distance through the headset post and pre-game interviews that you have been doing, where there's like a 5-second delay between the devices, and it seems like there's no possibility of any sort of like flow that could happen. The conversations have been great, man. Like, honestly, they've been very entertaining, and like there actually have been flows. So well done.
Thank you, Scott. You just gave me some more PTSD.
Yeah, right. I can imagine.
The delay is the pain. We finally had it figured out last year. The Jays played a series at the Trop. We did a walk-off with Cavan Biggio, which in person or headset or Zoom or whatever over the years, double ender back in the day over satellite, it's still one of the, doing a walk-off interview I find is a real challenge. You don't get much, but Cavan was terrific that day. We talked about game scenarios. He was congratulating Santiago Espinal on taking a walk. Anyway, that stands out, and none of the others do. So I appreciate your words about those, because they're certainly a challenge.
Well, I worked in radio for years, and I got PTSD just watching you do it. I was nervous for you every time you do it with the distance. It makes it so difficult. But no, you've pulled it off nicely here. How difficult has that been, you being in the studio and everyone else being kind of scattered throughout?
The biggest challenge for me in the way I like to do the role is I like to get to the ballpark at 3:30 for a 7:00 game, and just basically post up by the dugout next to the camera well, pop into the clubhouse, hang out, and just try and have as many conversations with people as possible. Because I believe, like, I'm a fan first of sports. This miserable outfit right here drives crazy 357 days of the year, because we're good for 8 wins. Although even the days we win, I'm not happy about that either. So I try and think about, okay, somebody's sitting at home, what do they want to know? And I try and do the gamut. I try and tell fans a little bit about the players' families, a little bit about what gets them out of bed in the morning, a little bit about their upbringing, a little bit about the technical side of baseball, some different sides of it. And so kind of mix in the range of things. And so often it'll just come up in conversation. I remember in 2019, we were in Texas, and I'm watching Raptors 76ers game 2 or 3, the Kawhi shot before the shot, on my phone. And Tim Mesa came over and he's like, hey, what's the score of the game? I found out he's from Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Oh, really?
Fan. We started chatting about that. Then Aaron Sanchez comes out and he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm telling him. He's like, I saw Kawhi play in high school. I'm like, what? And he said, yeah, my dad, like when we were growing up in Barstow, like the legend of this high school phenom, Kawhi Leonard, like went there. So when they came through, Dad and I went to the game. He said, I'm getting shivers just thinking about it. He's like, you just saw then in high school how much better he was than everybody, blah, blah, blah. So fast forward, say a month later, or 3 weeks later, on a Sunday morning, the Raptors had just beaten Milwaukee in Game 6 to clinch their first spot in the NBA Finals. So I go into the clubhouse, talk to Sanchez. I said, so how about your boy Kawhi? He said, I went to the game last night. I'm like, really? They were playing San Diego, day game. That was Cal Quantrill's debut in Toronto. And Cal actually had an old school T-Mac jersey that he had in his locker.
Nice.
And Sanchez said, yeah, I went to the game. And he said, I walked over. He said, coming back, the place is going crazy. He said, it reminded me of 2015. And so that, the morning after the Raptors clinch, I'm doing a Jays game. My second inning on camera story is Aaron Sanchez saw this guy in high school.
Yeah.
He went with his dad. He went to the game last night. It reminded him of 2015. This is what he said about Kawhi then. All of that is gone. In COVID, all of that is gone.
Yeah.
The interactions, it's not the formal stuff. We're just dudes. We're just humans. And something that Aaron told me 3 weeks before comes full circle later. And I think as a fan, the day after the Raptors win, that's how you tie the baseball conversation to what's happening in the world. I interviewed Ross Atkins that same Sunday morning. I said, okay, the Raptors went and got a megastar. What's the difference between baseball and basketball? Why can't, if you guys traded tomorrow for Mike Trout or Garrett Cole or whatever, why wouldn't he have the same, or they have the same impact that Kawhi did? So those are the things that are so difficult because everything's structured and regimented, and there's no coffee shop anymore. And the coffee shop is what makes the gig that Hazel and I do unique and different. And so hopefully we'll be back to that soon.
That's really interesting. I'd never even really thought of just the little tidbits you'd get in passing that, make a conversation that much more interesting once you're on air. And that's just not available anymore.
One day we were somewhere and I spotted, not to make this all about Aaron Sanchez, but one day I spotted Sanchez and Tim Raines sitting in a dugout and just like laughing, and one of them slapping the other guy on the leg and carrying on. I'm like, man, kind of put that. And then a few weeks before Raines got inducted into Cooperstown, I went up to Sanchez and he told me all about their relationship. Aaron was coming up. Today I wouldn't see that. Today I wouldn't know that. So those, and that, again, as a fan, if you're sitting there, you're like, wait a minute, an Expos legend and a Blue Jays rotation guy have a rapport, and Aaron's like, this means I'm so happy for him, everything he's done for me, all those things. And so we're trying different ways of doing things. We're getting guys on the phone and having conversations. We're trying, but it's definitely not the same, but the world's not the same. So
it is not. And I know one of the things the Blue Jays fans have been most stressed out about, and I know you're already probably aware of where I'm going. You were talking about the big superstar and why that doesn't work in 2019, and then the Jays go out and get George Springer in 2021. And now everyone in the fan base is dealing with Springer anxiety pretty much daily. I know he was supposed to just have his regular day off on Monday, and then that, of course, wound up being he was feeling some stuff and then missed yesterday. Any word on if George Springer is going to be in the lineup today, and should the fan base be worried about him hitting the IL?
Okay, so we are...
Calm us down, Arash.
George Springer signed a contract to play what the hope is approximately 850 to 860 games, including October, with this ball club. So the first week of May of 2021 and the second week of May of 2021, if he's sitting, it's going to be okay. Just hear me there. Let's take the long view on this.
Yes.
Now, this is not sourced. No one has told me this, etc. Let me just double check my my calendar here. But the Blue Jays have just started this road trip. Was it like a 10-game road trip or something?
Yeah.
And they've started in Oakland. And what's the next city they go to? Houston, Texas.
Yeah.
I just wonder. I don't know George Springer. I have spoken with him 6 questions on 3 Zooms, 8 questions on 3 Zooms, and a walk-off interview. I don't know the man at all. Even if I was around him every day, I wouldn't know him at all. I just wonder how much this is Springer wanting to make sure that he's healthy for all 3 in Houston. Look, he tweaked the quad. There's no question on Saturday. Then he hits 2 bombs after. coming up the first base line. He said he got his cleat caught in the dirt as he was coming out of the box, whatever. When I was watching Monday, he looked like a player who had no intention of coming in to pinch hit. I don't see an IL stint happening because I think that he badly wants to play Friday, Saturday, Sunday in Houston. So I wonder if he'll play either. I mean, we're filming this or taping this Wednesday morning. May he go today? May he go tomorrow? Just to get one game in before that Astros series. There should not be Springer anxiety. George Springer is very good. He hit 2 home runs, even as he's getting his timing back. Blah blah blah. But
I mean, the 3 games he played, look at how much deeper that lineup was. Like it was night and day.
Everybody.
That series in Atlanta, night and day, him in the lineup.
I realize opening day is April 1st. To me, the George Springer experience begins around May 15th, after the Houston series, after the hoopla, on and on it goes. Then he reaches comfortable cruising altitude and away they go.
This front office, and I know this is something that's been widely talked about on Blue Jays Twitter the last couple days, they, especially this year, seem to be playing their cards, especially close to the vest when it comes to injury and timelines and stuff like that.
Especially this year? How about especially since...
You're right. Since
November
2016, yeah.
Yeah, right. Actually, you know what? That's unfair. This Blue Jay team has been playing injuries close to the vest since... Well,
as long as you can remember,
October of 2009, and prior to that, when did Ricciardi take over? 2002 or whatever. When has the Blue Jay front office not been cards close to the vest on injuries?
So I guess my question is then...
Hold on, remember JP's line? It's not a lie if I know what the truth is? Like, come on.
Is having too much transparency as a front office a disadvantage? Like, is that why they do this? Like, is it an advantage to keep things close to the vest? Like, is this just strategy? Because as a fan, it feels like it would have just made more sense for Charlie Montoya on Monday, or the front office on Monday, to, instead of being like, oh yeah, George Springer, regular day off, we were planning this all along, to just be like, yeah, he's a little sore, we're playing it day by day. That just answered
that says it all.
I don't understand professional sports executives. Like, I don't know if you guys are into the CFL at all. The CFL draft was yesterday, and this executive from another team, not Hamilton, the Ticats take this kid, Jake Burt from Boston College, first overall. He texted me this morning, said, kudos to the Ticats for not only getting Jake Burt gear, but keeping the pick and the contract extension under wraps. I'm like, what's the competitive advantage of the secrecy? You have the number 1 overall pick. Everyone and their dog knew, like, last September, Trevor Lawrence was going first overall. Like, they get this nonsense in their heads, and like, we're not saving lives here. Okay. Like, so anyway.
It's a good point. I wonder if it really is they're just in their own heads too much. Like, it just doesn't make sense. But yeah, no, you're right. So I've been a baseball fan my whole life, since I was a kid. And honestly, the one thing that just to this day blows me away is slumps. Like, it's just such a prevalent mental battle in the game of baseball. Every player deals with it every single season. And it's kind of how crazy rituals and superstitions start. I know we had Ben Wagner on the show a couple weeks ago, and he told the story about how Rowdy started rubbing his head for luck, right, to break the song.
By the way,
listen,
you had Wagner on the show. See that little purple and gold artwork there? That was courtesy of Mrs. Wagner.
Very nice.
Who does some great work. So a little plug for Megan and her work. You can find her stuff on Instagram.
There we go.
Phenomenal.
I get why players get so crazy with it, though. Like, if you're 0-20, you're going to do whatever you think might work. Like, honestly, Danny Jansen probably would have rubbed Wagner's head raw if he thought it was going to work, you know, and it was nice to see him break out of his slump. So what is the craziest thing you've seen or heard a player do to try and break a slump? And who out of Cavan, Lourdes, and Danny, who are slumping, do you see breaking out first?
Okay, so here's what I wonder. I can't answer the first question.
Okay.
I can't. Okay. I just can't because I have a couple of good ones and I just like my job.
That's fair.
All right.
And like I'm being honest with you guys, like I'm being myself, but if we were having beers somewhere where in Alberta are you guys, by the way?
I'm in Calgary and Adams in Edmonton.
Okay, very nice. Very nice. I covered the Flames for a season. So I
Which year was that?
That was the 07-08 season for the Score. Before the Score was just an app. We were actually a television network.
Oh, I remember.
That was
I remember those days. Yes.
Yeah, Mike Keenan.
Yeah.
Was coaching.
Dark years. Dark
years.
years.
Lanko, Conroy, Phaneuf. They lost the Sharks in 7 to that miserable Jarek Ron Wilson.
Yeah, I remember. I'm a huge Flames fan, so yeah, that.
Yeah, if we were having a couple of cold ones, I don't even know if 17th is still a thing. But
not right now. But nothing's a thing, Arash.
I'll tell you a couple of war stories. Here's what I wonder about Biggio, guys, and this is kind of like gone under the radar. I don't know if you remember in spring training, you know, the terrible baseball injury. He suffered a pinky finger issue, and then Biggio took a line drive down the third baseline. I think it was in Kansas City on a cold night. And he said he was still dealing with the spring training hand stuff, and then it bothered a couple others. And he said even gripping a bat was an issue. Blah blah. I just wonder if Cavan's hand is okay. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Again, you're not there, and even if we were there, I don't know how much we'd find out.
That's interesting because he has really been not himself at the plate. Like, he's normally...
I don't know what's going on with Gurriel. And, like, Jansen, remember in 2019, he went on a little tear. He got hot, and he thought he figured something out with his stance and his timing and all those things. I would say if all are healthy, I'm betting Biggio. I don't know where they're all at right now. And with the caveat of Biggio probably not being close to 100%, especially with the hand and the swing, I'm actually betting on Danny Jansen.
Okay. I like that. It's funny. I'm a huge Lourdes fan. I really think that he has the ability, and we've seen it in the past, to carry this team on his own. But man, has he been not himself this season.
So the guy I like, and it's not just because he's the reigning Silver Slugger Award winner. For me, it's been Teoscar. Okay. I've always thought there was something there that just hadn't quite been unpacked, and it was almost like it was unlocked last year. And I know it was a limited sample size. I know he got hurt. I like Hernandez's demeanor. I like how he goes about it. Baseball matters to him. But especially now as a family guy, and just like it's not the most important vital thing, but he wants to win. He's a competitor, and he tries different things. He's tried the different, yellow glasses through the years, trying to figure that out. He goes and plays winter ball. He's a baseball nerd. So to me, it's Hernandez. Outside of Springer.
Yeah.
But I am stunned, guys, by the start Grichuk's had to the year.
Yeah. He's been phenomenal. He's been phenomenal. And, everyone keeps waiting for him the shoe to drop, because he has shown these flashes of being really hot in the past. But he's been solid.
Yeah, I remember in September of 19, last road trip of the season, they went Baltimore, New York, and I did a dugout pregame interview with him at Camden Yards. And I just said, hey, man, like, going into this off season, like what's the kind of mission to get going in 2020? He said, have a better start to the year. And April's always been his Achilles heel. And I think he came in, the whole, I hate the chip on the shoulder, but something to prove after Springer. But also he said, look, mentally my approach has changed. He's like, I'm thinking through an entire at bat differently now. That's been a big part of it. And I think working with Dante Bichette has helped. And I think he's just kind of discovering himself more as a hitter. But the whole thinking through an at-bat and being more mature in the approach, when he hit the walk-off the other day, just like Just he's being more patient too. Like wait for the pitch to hit. Don't try and do too much with it. Whereas in the past, young players, Pilar talked about this back in the day too. They're just Vlad even yesterday said, he said, last year I was taking on the whole weight of the team on my shoulders. You don't need to do that. You're 1 of 9. That's it. So sometimes it takes a while for guys to learn that, and I think Grichuk's been part of that too.
And I mean, Jays fans are used to late bloomers. I mean, Edwin and Jose carried this team for years, so it would sure be awesome to see Grichuk keep it together. And you're right, his patience at the plate has been the most noticeable thing, because last year you would see him swinging at stuff outside all the time, and he just has laid off that outside pitch this year. It's been great.
So here's a question for you guys. Let's say Grichuk keeps this going for another, what are we, May, whatever, first week in May, 6 weeks. You trade him for a pitcher? Because you're not going to get him for Gurriel right now if this continues. Like
No, for sure.
There will never be a time where Randal Grichuk's stock is higher than it is now. And are you willing to give up that to go get another arm?
That's a great question. I mean, you look at Springer and the injury problems he's had the last year, and boy, having 4 everyday outfielders sure is a nice little insurance policy.
Luxury.
But you look at this starting rotation. I mean, it's not even a rotation. There's 3 guys in it right now. Like,
and the bullpen story's great.
The
bullpen story's wonderful. Guess what? You're wearing the hell out of the bullpen.
Oh yeah.
Right? Anthony Castro, now they basically, healthy DL'd him or injured listed him just to make sure they're not going to wear him out. Like, these guys are going to run out of steam in July if this continues.
Tommy Malone has the 4th most innings pitched on this team. I mean, they can't keep this up.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe you do. Maybe you do come June. Start seeing if somebody would be into moving a pitcher for Randall. It's a good.
I'd sure feel a lot better about that if Cavan Biggio can figure out what's going on with himself at the plate.
That's true. If Cavan can break out of this slump, then
he's a very competent 4th outfielder for us.
You know who else is a competent 4th outfielder? Is Jonathan Davis.
That's true. Josh Palacios looked good there too. I don't know.
Speaking of, before we move on from potential trade bait, I know Scott disagrees with me on this a little bit, but Rowdy Tellez, where does his trade value on the open market now that he's kind of out of options and back down in the minors?
Yeah, and what do you think about him being in AAA right now, Arash?
I think it is a byproduct of going with the 1 extra pitcher. Like, okay, with Springer unavailable, they had a 2-man bench yesterday. Like, it's a roster configuration thing. It's a numbers game thing. So you have to carry the extra outfielder because of Springer, and then you're carrying the extra pitcher because you don't have starting arms. And so something's got to give, and they like Espinal's athleticism. They like Espinal's glove at third base.
And that left side of the infield has not been very solid, so you almost need Santiago. I don't know.
And on a day where, like, they had Joe Panik taking grounders at first base in batting practice a few days ago. Like, I get that you need to have a backup first baseman, but Tellez also needs to get at bats. So I actually think they have confidence in Tellez. I think it's just like,
I think they do too. It's just a roster crunch, right? Yeah. Where are you?
You're not getting anything for Rowdy right now. You're not getting anything.
No.
Right? I just don't know where he fits with this team long term. Especially if Vladdy's moved to first base on a permanent basis. I don't know where he goes.
But what's long? Like, I don't know where anybody on this team is long term other than Springer, Vlad, Bichette, I guess Biggio, Peterson.
Yeah.
You know, what's the long term of Danny Jansen? I don't know. What's the long term? Like, look around.
Yeah.
What's long term on a lot of guys right now?
It's a good point.
Like, this is the thing about a build, not a rebuild, but a build. Guys have to show what they are to then do a proper evaluation of who and what they are to then decide whether or not you're in the picture short, medium, or long term. And that's kind of where we are right now, is that, okay, Guerrero's living up to it.
Yeah.
Now let's see everybody else. Somebody in the front office told me in January, they said, really like Jano, love Real Muto. This is before Springer was in the mix. But we have to find out if we love Jano, and there's only one way to do that, and that's to play him.
Yeah. Catching is an interesting position for this team right now, especially with everyone's favorite backup catcher, Captain Kirk, hitting the IL for 6 weeks. I'm curious where you're at on what they do at this point. Like, I know things are up in the air. Does Riley Adams get a start today? Is it going to be Reese McGuire? Like, are they going to do an old switcheroo here? Because it doesn't seem like they're all in on Adams quite yet.
Correct. I would agree with that totally. Also, until like yesterday or the day before, they were not in on McGuire at all. Which tells me they're not really in on either of them for 2021, which makes me wonder, what do you go do? Mm-hmm. But who's out there? Who's available? Who's on the street? Is like a Jonathan Lucroy or something like that?
Weeders, yeah, like guys that there's a reason they're still available, right? That's who's available.
Now, I like Matt Wieters as I like Matt Wieters behind the plate. I don't know if I like Matt Wieters digging in at the plate. Mm-hmm. I think Matt Wieters can manage a pitching staff as well as anybody else, and I think he can pick it up quickly. Look, he was important what he did with Washington on their rise to where they got to on that run. So having a veteran catcher, I think, really matters. There's one comparable in baseball and football. I'm a football guy first. I view the catching position similar, not the same, to the quarterback position. But I view the backup catcher position and the backup quarterback position as almost identical. So if you have a kid, and I still view Jansen as a kid, even though I think he's like one of the longest tenured Blue Jays after Teoscar. If you have Pat Mahomes, great. I want Matt Moore there. I want Alex Smith there. Mm-hmm. I have Lamar Jackson. I have RG3 there. It's great that you have Danny, and I understand that Kirk's hitting the heck out of the ball, and there's only one way to see what he is. But at this stage of things, I'm a big proponent of having adults in the room. Bringing George Springer in brings an adult to the room. Justin Smoke was having an adult in the room. Having a veteran catcher, Kurt Suzuki, on the Nats' run to a World Series, brought another adult into the room, and that was vital. That was important. And I really believe the backup quarterback and the backup catcher, when you have a kid as your starter, that it's worth it. And you have a little bit of money to spend because the guy you thought was going to be your everyday closer blew out his arm before the season started. I just don't know what's available to go get.
Yeah, me neither. You'd almost need to make a trade. Like, there really isn't that seasoned veteran out there that has enough of a bat to make the switch even worth it. Like, that's the thing, is if they go out and get a veteran catcher, I'm all for it. But if it's just going to be another Jansen at the plate, it seems like a sideways move. But you're right. There is something to be said for that presence.
But no, I disagree, Scott, with you there from this standpoint. We just talked about how worn out the pitching staff is. Mm-hmm. This is now a matter of managing your pitchers and managing your arms and those pitchers having confidence in a guy behind the plate. That's why Reese McGuire is even being talked about right now, because he's caught games in the big leagues. He has a rapport with these guys. He knows how to catch them. Riley Adams has probably caught just guys throwing early in camp when they're just getting their throwing program started. So at this stage of things, to me, it's more than just the bat. In fact, I think what they do behind the plate at this stage, first week of May, may not be the long-term play that Adam talked about, but man, it's you need an adult back there.
Do you think Jansen deserves a little bit of credit for this pitching staff to this point?
Yeah, no question. Danny's had to pick up a lot on the fly and a lot on the go. It's been heavy lifting the last 3 years. A lot to absorb, a lot of the wristband stuff, a lot of new arms who have come and gone. He's got a really good demeanor, pretty even keel, and the whole thing about not taking his struggles to the plate to the defensive side of things. That's a big part of it too. That's a huge part of it. I mean, we're all humans, right? Like, how does it not? And I'm sure it has a little bit, but
well, we saw it with Bo Bichette, a shortstop, early in the season. He wasn't exactly crushing the ball, and defensively wasn't helping himself out much either. But
you know what's interesting, guys? I talked to Bo a couple days ago. We did one of those headset interviews that Scott had referenced earlier, and Bo said something really interesting. Because look, we're a month in, but his home road splits home road differences of the plate are crazy. Like his batting average, like 200 points higher in Dunedin, and his OPS is like double. I said, look, man, it's a small sample size, but do you see anything there? He said, no, it's just a coincidence. But he said, I figured out some mental and physical things in Dunedin. I said, oh yeah, what are those? He said, well, just physically, just a couple minor tweaks of the swing, but he said, mentally, when I was in the minors and I'd be in a slump, I'd start to doubt myself, whatever. He said, now I don't. He said, now if I have some struggles in the big leagues, he's like, I know I can hit here. And so I'll just go figure it out. And to have a kid, how old is Bo? 22, 23?
Yeah, he's 23. He's 100 games into his career.
Right. And to have that kind of outlook at this stage of things, that's damn impressive.
It's amazing.
All right, we better get to some listener questions here before we let you go here, or
Yeah.
we will get some crap. So let's start here with Gemma out of Newfoundland. She says, "Hey Arash, so cool you're on the show. I hate West Coast games so much. I'm going to miss the whole Oakland series because I can't stay up. Do you think the time zone on the West Coast affects the players at all in a series like this one?"
I don't, Gemma. I think the bigger factor is going west to east rather east to west. That over the years has been what guys have said, which actually, oh man, we had a brutal one. It was either an 18 or 19. It was a night game in Anaheim on like a Monday night, and then an early evening game in Texas. I think that was 19. I think that was that same series I was just talking about with Kawhi and Sanchez and Meza. But it's the other way that affects it more coming back than it is going out. But it's a good question. They played a crazy extra innings game. Bautista was still around because they did the walk-off with him in Anaheim on a Friday night, I think in 17. And it went like 15 or 16 innings. It was like 3 a.m. Eastern.
Right.
So 4:30 a.m. for Gemma in Newfoundland. And I actually got a couple messages on Twitter from I'm from Nova Scotia originally, from some fellow Maritimers who are like, we're still awake. I'm like, God bless you, because I'm barely awake and you're 14 minutes away.
Yeah, it is a benefit to be on the West Coast for those West Coast games, that's for sure. All right, so Marie in Spruce Grove, Alberta says my husband keeps talking like there won't be a season next year. Is the talks between the MLBPA and the owners that dire?
It's so early to know. Look, they're contentious. They don't like each other, et cetera, et cetera. On top of that, Marie, the revenues with COVID have just been destroyed. They've been crushed. They've plummeted. I don't know. The answer is I don't know. I don't know if anybody knows. The lead up to coming out of the shutdown in 2020 was ugly and needless and short-sighted by the owners. The fact that they're playing 162 stuns me, but they are.
Yeah.
Look, gun to my head, I'd say there's going to be some kind of labor stoppage. Is it a full season? They can't be that stupid.
Yeah.
They really can't be that stupid because of they will further destroy what they've already destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
And that wouldn't be fatal, but man, it would put them in ICU.
If there's anyone who would do it, it is MLB.
Their owners.
Yeah. Arash, thank you so much for your time, my man. Like, we really enjoyed talking baseball with you and appreciate you making time in your schedule for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, often people say, like, I really enjoyed it because that's what you're supposed to say. I actually really enjoyed this. So,
well, that is lovely. I'm
yeah,
glad.
great to visit with you both, and holler anytime. Maybe we can do this down the road.
Definitely.
Look forward to it.